unlike what Paul Pierce said, being that they didn't want the game enough, I'm here to tell you they actually wanted it. And the only reason they lost last night is because they were gassed. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Ruckus with Alex Hymes, and yes, we are finally back in the studio, which is done. I will give a tour of that, and you can see some of the images of that right now. But without further ado, we got to talk about what happened last night, and that is the Toronto Raptors going down to the Golden State Warriors in Scotiabank Arena in Game 2 of the NBA Finals. It's sad. Truly sad. But before we get to the sad news of the day, I got to give some congratulations out. And I know it seems kind of annoying because it's the start of the program. I'm giving you guys the info that we're going to discuss. But hey, it's a big time of the year. And by big, I mean graduation season. And I was able to go back to my alma mater, Transylvania University in Lexington, Kentucky, see some of my old friends walk across the stage, get their diploma, and start the next phase of their life. And I couldn't be more proud of them joining the alumni family, getting through and surviving undergrad, not just undergrad, Transylvania University. Trust me, for those who don't know about it, if you don't know, now you know. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, I wanted to give a nice congratulations to good buddies of mine, Rob Prince, Bronson Paddock, Malik Jackson. Salute to Malik, who is an ROTC reserve, going into the military down the road. Other guys, Zach Trelobs, Jack Berger, other friends of mine, Sydney Lococo, Allie Benz. Allie Benz actually helped start what you're seeing right now with this show, The Ruckus. She and I were in a marketing class, actually, our junior year, and she and I did a project on radio and what I was doing at the start of this very program. And without her, I would not be where I am now. So I do owe Benz a lot of credit. Benz, as always, business is booming. And I'd also like to shout out my second home, which is Fade's Barbershop in Lexington, Kentucky. You know, I can't say it best. Those guys have been great to me since day one. I mean, the first day I got to campus in Lexington, you know, it might seem a little stupid to admit, but I'm a Jewish guy from Los Angeles, so I'm surrounded by my people, basically. I'm surrounded by Jewish people everywhere I go. And then going to Lexington, Kentucky, and being one of only a couple Jewish students at my university, you know, I felt like a bit of an outsider. And I went to Fades, and from the jump, you know, I walked in there, I was treated like family, and it meant the world to me, because when I tell you that it was a very odd experience getting dropped in the middle of nowhere, basically, not knowing anyone, and then having to kind of write my own family, write my own script, and figure things out on my own. And having a place to go to when, you know, I needed to talk to people, or I just needed to feel some familiarity of home, you know, going to the barbershop was one of the best experiences. And it helped actually, again, like with Ben's, it helped started what I'm doing here. You know, G, my barber, ended up, you know, sitting with me and being willing to talk basketball and shop all the time. And we just started recording it and putting it up on YouTube. So, you know, the latest one that I did, I actually was lucky enough to bring this camera with me, go back and do an episode of The Fade with G in studio there. And by studio, I mean the shop. And, you know, it meant the world to me. So, again, I want to thank Fades. I want to thank Rod, G, Frank, the barbers there. If you guys are ever in Lexington, need a great cut, trust me, tell them Alex sent you. You'll enjoy what you get. They'll do you right. And also, congrats not only just to Transylvania University, congrats to UK, congrats to all the guys and gals and whomever you may be for graduating university. It's a big step in your future. And as someone who is living it right now, you're not looking forward to a lot, but trust me, it gets a lot better from here. I promise you. So congratulations to all those who have graduated. Congrats to everyone who's starting the next phase of your life. And congratulations now to the Golden State Warriors for actually beating the Toronto Raptors in Game 2 in a game that they should have lost. Yeah, I'm saying it. The Toronto Raptors, unlike what Paul Pierce said, being that they didn't want the game enough, I'm here to tell you they actually wanted it. And the only reason they lost last night is because they were gassed. Glasses Malone, rapper out of Los Angeles, good buddy of mine. He and I were talking about the game the other day on Instagram, and he made a good point. He said the defenses for the Raptors and for the Warriors has been stellar on both sides. Well, what did we see last night? We saw stellar defense again from both sides. It was picture perfect defense, not only from Golden State, but for the Warriors, for the Raptors at the end of the game. The only reasons why the Raptors lost last night's game were Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard looking completely tired, taking threes at the very end of the game, those last 3 shots in the last minute that just couldn't go down. Some were either short, some were a little off to the left or the right, but mostly they looked gassed. Kawhi wasn't getting enough lift on those shots, and you could see it in the footage right here. Could not get enough lift, and it went up short, and unfortunately, the Raptors were just not able to convert on their stellar defense that they had in the last 5 minutes of this game. And by the end, it was over. Kyle Lowry had fouled out with the last 3 minutes left. They managed to keep that stellar defense. You know what? I'm just going to go into it. That defense last night is one of the best defenses I've ever seen played in a NBA game, and not to mention a finals game. From the 5-minute and 39-second mark up until Iggy shot, arguably between the 9 and 5 second range, when it finally went down and they took the timeout, the Warriors were not able to score. Yeah, you heard that right. They were not able to score. The Raptors played perfect defense, causing the Warriors to take tough shots that they couldn't make or they didn't want to take, and utilizing that to their advantage. And unfortunately, the Raptors just couldn't capitalize. They were gassed. All the energy that they were putting in on the defensive side was just not converting into points on the offense. It was rough to watch. Shots were not landing. Layups were not being taken. Driving to the basket was not occurring. It almost seemed like it was park-style basketball where you play the tough defense and you walk the ball up the court, you wait a little bit to scan the field, see what's going on, but no one's moving. There's no movement off the ball. And what little movement was occurring off ball was not leading to anything more than ISO possessions done by Kawhi Leonard or whichever guy had the ball in that moment. And not to mention, Danny Green decides to show up at the perfect time, only to come back and get a shot hit on him by Andre Iguodala. And mind you, I've been waiting for Danny Green to step up in these finals. It wasn't too long ago when the Spurs were in the NBA Finals, the year that they lost to the Heat, that Danny Green was going off, and there was conversation about him being the Finals MVP. Well, here we are all these years later, and Danny Green finally shows up after a terrible playoff run. A terrible enough run to where Norman Powell, whom I've said should be starting over Danny Green, was looking really, really damn good and should have arguably been the starter already. Danny Green finally stepped it up last night, and it went for nothing. But I'm here to tell you, Paul, that the Raptors wanted last night's game. Not only did they want it, let me give you some facts. All their players scored last night. They played an 8-man rotation, sure, but they all scored a minimum of 6 points or more. Not to mention, they all played 15 minutes or more. At minimum, the Raptors were using these guys, and unfortunately, they just came up short because they were gassed at the end of the game. But there's no way, shape, or form that the Raptors did not want this game. They played stellar defense from the last 5 minutes down to the last 5 seconds of this game. They managed to deal with a Warriors team who went on a 20-point run at one point, whom looked like they were just going to run away with this game at some point. They managed to come back from that, play stellar defense, put themselves in the right situation to win, as most of these NBA players, just as yourself always says, you always put yourself in the right situation, but they just couldn't hit shots, and that's what it boils down to. It's nothing about whether or not they wanted enough or whether or not they didn't. It's just the fact that the Raptors put themselves in the right situation, and they just weren't able to convert. And you know something? If I'm Nick Nurse, although I'm slightly upset because I had to deal with those defensive lapses that led to Golden State going on those runs, I'm happy with how the game ended, where we put up a great fight. We put ourselves in the best situation to win. And you know something? The next game comes around, we make sure that those shots we couldn't hit, we finally get to hit them. We give Kawhi enough rest in between these games so that he is not playing on one leg or playing as a one-man show. We get Siakam more included. We make sure that Marc Gasol wins the matchup with him and DeMarcus Cousins, which last night Cousins clearly won. We make sure that we don't let Andre Iguodala get 10 feet open, spend at least 10 seconds on an island waiting to get a shot up and managing to get that three. Let's talk about this real quick. I'm pissed off about this one player in particular. All right, look, after looking like a shell of himself offensively, Andre Iguodala hit what was and might be arguably, if they end up winning this series, the most clutch shot of his career, which was the three-pointer to put them up 109-104 with 5.1 seconds left, giving him the cushion to make sure that they were done, that this game was over, right? The Raptors, watch this possession, okay? Notice how, of all things, you see the spacing that Iggy's getting. Van Fleet and Siakam are doubling Curry at the half-court point. Danny Green is covering Draymond Green on the outside, and Gasol has Cousins down low, and Kawhi is on, of all people, Sean Livingston. Sean Livingston. He is covering Sean Livingston, all right? That's one thing that pisses me off about this. But to go further, nobody was on Iguodala at the beginning of this possession. Watch this. He stayed in the same spot for the total of 15 seconds. It started at the 15-second mark to when Livingston passed him the rock, which was, I believe, at the 9-7 at this possession, right? And then Siakam is left on the outside of the logo, leaving Van Fleet to try and recover and follow Steph Curry, because the only guy you don't want shooting is Steph at this point. You can take a slight risk with Iguodala as long as you can test a shot, but what happens? Nobody attempts to close out Iguodala. Gasol watches him shoot while everyone else sets up for a rebound. Everyone thinks they're going to be able to get this rebound. They think they're going to be able to make a new possession after this. They're going to take a quick timeout. They'll be able to go. It's 106, 104. You might be able to take a quick jumper. You might be able to get a layup, or you might get a good look at a three, and you take it. But, oh, wait, no. Andre Iguodala actually decides to hit this one shot, especially after Danny Green finally shows up, not to mention that. And what happens? It's 109, 104, 5.1 seconds left. Golden State's about to win this game. All because you left Andre Iguodala on an island on his own. You gave the man enough time to stand there, tie his shoe, pick his nose, look at the basket, get the ball from Livingston, stand in the same spot, get a feel for the ball real quick, like the Adrian Dantley style, like put up, and then take the shot. And there was no one there even to contest it at the very end. Everyone just stood there and watched the shot go in. That's not how you play defense. That's not how you win championships. If there's anything Paul Pierce is talking about when it comes to, they didn't want enough, that's the one play that he can call out. That's the only time he can call it out for this game. But everything else, the Toronto Raptors did right. This is the only play, in my opinion, in the last 5-10 minutes of the game, fourth quarter, we can even go there, that they screwed up in that they had a lapse or a momentary lapse of reason with this possession, or the defensive coverages, whatever you want to call it. Golden State does well in terms of pulling off screens, doing a lot of flare screens, doing a lot of screen and rolling. They have a lot of players that are doing movement off ball, but man, they let Iguodala take this shot. All right, and I am pissed off because of it. That's the only part of this game that had me upset whatsoever, and that's my reaction also to the last night's game. What do you guys think? Do you think that Toronto actually wanted last night's game, unlike what Paul Pierce said? Or do you agree with him? Do you think the Raptors just didn't want it enough? Let me know in the comments section below. And now for the final part of today's show, I want to discuss something that's come to my attention solely because we're in the NBA Finals and he's a part of one of these teams. Years ago, in 2008, the year that the Celtics won, the Philadelphia 76ers were 42-40. They were in the playoffs, coached by Mo Cheeks, and their best player at that time was a guy who was averaging 19.9 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 2.1 steals per game on 40.3 minutes per night. And who is that? That's Andre Iguodala. And the reason I'm bringing up Iguodala is because we're in the NBA Finals. The man's won a Finals MVP. But people now want to discuss whether or not Iguodala is a Hall of Famer. Well, let me give you his career stats before we go into all this, okay? Career stats are 12.1 points per game, 5.1 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists per game, 1.5 steals per game on 33.4 minutes a night. Not to mention some of the accolades. I want to give you all the information before we go into it. He's a 3-time NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors. He was a Finals MVP in 2014-15, the year that they played against LeBron, and he stepped up to the plate. Stepped up. He's a 2012 Olympic gold medalist for the United States, so I give him enough credit there. And he's an all-defensive first and second teamer, second team in 2011, first team in 2014, and he was also a NBA All-Star in 2012. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, Iguodala is not a Hall of Fame player. No matter what you say, no matter what you think, Iguodala is not a Hall of Fame player. Those numbers, non-Hall of Famer. His best year was in Philadelphia all those years ago, and those still aren't Hall of Fame numbers. Those are Chris Middleton level numbers for you being the best player on that team, which is no offense to Chris Middleton, but he's also the second best player on the Bucks. Iguodala is a great player, but the only reason, I'm going to say it outright, the only reason why we're having a discussion whether or not he is a Hall of Famer is purely because he joined the Golden State Warriors, unlike the way Kevin Durant did, before they were on the true up and up. The Mark Jackson era Golden State Warriors. He joined them in 2013 when they were still on the rise. He downgraded, technically, if you looked at the series. He went from the Denver Nuggets to the Warriors, a lower seed, and ended up being a guy who won, or arguably helped win, an NBA Finals the year that he was the Finals MVP. So, to put it to you straight, he should have not been the Finals MVP that year. It should have been Stephen Curry, who was averaging 25 points per game, was the best player technically for the Golden State Warriors. And if you wanted to give the Finals MVP to someone else, I would have said LeBron James. Do it the Jerry West way, where when West lost with the Lakers, he still won the Finals MVP because he was the most outstanding player. LeBron was the most outstanding player in that Finals run. But Iguodala got the Finals MVP because he was a key role in stopping LeBron. When Iggy was on the court, LeBron's percentages were 38.1%. With Iggy on the bench, he went up to 44%. Well, that won him a Finals MVP, which to me does not justify winning it whatsoever, especially when you have Steph Curry and LeBron James on the court. And although 6% was good enough to get them a series win, it doesn't mean crap to me. Nor should it justify him being a Hall of Famer. The only reason we're having this discussion whatsoever is because Iguodala joined a squad that went on to win multiple championships, and he's playing with some of the greatest players of our generation. But just because he's playing with some of the greatest players of our generation and is arguably a key cog in their system for certain moments like last night, that doesn't mean he deserves to be in the conversation of a Hall of Famer. Hell no, he is not a Hall of Famer. He is a great player who should be commended for what he has done, not only for Golden State, but for being a glue guy, for setting a new standard of what the glue guy should do, what a six-man should do, what a defensive specialist should do, for what you do on the defensive side of the ball, period. He should be commended for all of that. But is he a Hall of Famer? Absolutely not. His numbers don't justify it. What he's done in the league does not justify it. And compared to some of the other players from his era, there is absolutely no justification for him being in the same conversation as a Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Giannis, Kobe, any of these guys. We can pull names out of a hat. I'd give Brandon Roy more of a reason to be a Hall of Famer than him. Maybe not because Brandon Roy doesn't have chips, but look at the numbers that Brandon Roy put up. Look what he did for Portland. Arguably more of an impact for that organization than Iguodala's impact for the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors have shown us time and time again that they can make random guys or guys who have names in other locations elevate themselves in turn, which elevates the team. Think about Harrison Barnes, what he was doing with the Golden State Warriors. Now, arguably, sure, he landed in that contract with the Dallas Mavericks, but that was to steal him away, one, and that they will also let him go so that they could get Kevin Durant, which was clearly an upgrade. Not to mention Draymond Green. Draymond Green is a beneficiary of the Golden State system. Would we be seeing him the same way we do now if he was on the Detroit Pistons? If he was on the Orlando Magic? Absolutely not. Sean Livingston, while although had a career before that, played well with the Nets, played well with other teams, he's still a beneficiary of having these great players around him with Golden State. The guy has never taken a three-point shot in his career from what I know, and I've never seen it, and yet he plays well on a three-point shooting team. Look, I could keep going on. The list goes on. Guys like Quinn Cook, especially like last night. Look, Andre Iguodala is a good player, but he benefits from playing with all these big-name talents. Durant, I'll put Draymond in there for sake of argument. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. Look, he's a great player, but he's not, one, a Hall of Famer. Two, he shouldn't have been a Finals MVP. And three, there is no reason why we should be having this discussion. Let's focus on guys who actually deserve being in the Hall of Fame, and as opposed to bringing up guys who played with guys who deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, let's be real. Don't get me wrong. I like Iguodala, and I can give you another example. Does Rajon Rondo deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? He's won championships, wasn't a Finals MVP, played like an MVP level for the Celtics during their playoff runs, helped the big three being Rajon Rondo, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Kendrick Perkins win a championship, bring Banner 17 to Boston. But does that enough to justify Rajon Rondo being in the Hall of Fame? If you can honestly tell me that Rajon Rondo does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame and that Iguodala does, then we have a problem, people. Rajon Rondo has more claim to a Hall of Fame bid than Andre Iguodala does. And that's no slight against Andre Iguodala. It's just the player he is and what he's done. I respect him. I like his game. But no, he is not, 1, a Finals MVP to me. 2, he is not a Hall of Famer. But that does not take away from the fact I respect wholeheartedly the decision to give him the MVP in a sense because of what he did against LeBron in the 2015 Finals. But I still don't think he's an MVP player, nor do I think that Andre Iguodala is a Hall of Fame player. Well, that's enough for me on this rant today. I finally had enough. I've let out my steam. What really grinded my gears, it's finally done. I'd like to give a couple warm shout outs real quick as usual. I'd like to give a shout out to Bounce, putting great stuff out on their page as usual. Elliot, you're the man. I'd like to give a shout out to Hoops Nation. Buster, you're doing a great job. Keep on posting stuff on the regular basis that I can either like, share, or send to people via inbox on Instagram because I like having a lot of NBA memes that I can forward around. Also, Basketball Studios, Brett, he's going to be making his way to LA for what we have going on in the next couple of weeks, people. Stay tuned for an event that's occurring at the Truth Hollywood. If anyone's in Los Angeles on June 23rd, make your way to Pierce's Place, the Truth Hollywood, in Hollywood, located on Sunset and Gower, where you can get great hookah, chill with myself and a couple other guys, some big name players, as well as check in our live event, which we'll be doing there. So everyone, thank you again for tuning in. This has been The Ruckus with Alex Hymes. Don't forget to check out my Instagram at HymesWorld, HymesWorld, as well as Alexander Hymes on Facebook, AlexAnder Hymes, as well as like and subscribe, please, to this channel. I love what I'm putting out these days. I hope you love it as much as I do. I'm trying to shake things up a little bit, do a little bit of, being outside the studio and doing more of the active stuff, as well as making videos beyond just what I'm doing here in the studio. It's much appreciated. And if you like what I'm doing here, you're interested to tell me your thoughts on the Iguodala Hall of Fame situation, or whether or not the Raptors or the Warriors will win this year's title, let me know in the comment section below. It's greatly appreciated. And by the way, don't forget to check out Twitter at Alexander_Hymes. Enough of my feeds and plugins, honestly. Stay tuned because I'm going to be doing a contest for a signed Zach LaVine Pinstripe Bulls jersey, people. It's been great. It's been fun. It hasn't been real fun, though. Thanks for tuning in again to The Ruckus with Alex Hymes, ladies and gentlemen. We'll catch you next week.